fun. What if you could play video games and watch porn at the same time?
Here's a little mod.
I got private
private browser, and then type in Pornhub.com. It's a little mod of mine.
Well, with that being said, what's up, everybody? This is Hot Button, an investigative podcast where we get to dig deep into the strange depths of video games and tell stories about them to all you fine folk out there listening. Our story today will be one controversy that many commentators like to call the pseudo-sequel to Hot Coffee, making this a great follow-up, if you will, for when we jumped so deep into that coffee a few weeks ago that we practically swam around in it.
Yeah.
But seriously,
hot.
Yeah, for more information on that and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and its infamous mod and sex mini games, as well as some pretty good burn on politicians.
Yeah,
if I do say so ourselves.
Take that, hierarchy.
But I highly recommend it. It's a really great topic, and this one will be too, because today we're going to talk about one of everybody's favorite first-person role-playing games.
Or third person.
Or third. Did anybody play that in third?
It depends on... I switch. Like, if you're looting in a dungeon, you go first. But sometimes combat in third person is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Wow. The Elder Scrolls IV, Oblivion. 4.
That's 4.
That is 4. And how it's
What's that, Spanish?
and how its appropriately rated T for teen rating became a big fat M for mature, thanks to some modded in-game nipples and hanging dead body. But mostly the nipples. I'm your host, Randall Beatrice, and I'm here with the crew of Austin Blakesley and Chris Anantuano.
What up?
And we're gonna.
I noticed my name here in the outline has a red line underneath of it.
Yeah, it's spelled wrong.
They're always
I like how Blakesley has finally been rectified for years. I had to see a red line under that one.
I can't believe I've never asked you this on air or off, but what does your last name actually mean?
Oh,
Blakesley's
I have
a
no
place,
idea.
right? Oh, no?
No, yeah, I know it goes back a while. We made knives. There's a good joke in our family. We always like to pretend like we were the ones who made the spear that killed Jesus. I don't know if that's a little too dark.
Whoa. That's bad PR.
Mine's got something to do with wolves.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Mine's like Wolf Shield or something.
Mine's like Wolf Glen.
Fuck, now I feel like shit.
That's some wolves over here.
Whatever, we conquered the known world. We probably enslaved your people. But anyway, let's get...
I think we're also, there's Italian in both of us quite a bit, so maybe we were on a team. But you guys ready to dive into some nipples? Or video games?
Yes.
All right. So, on March 20th, 2006... Year of our Lord.
Yeah, real close to 666. Was anybody else in high school afraid of the Antichrist coming?
Yeah. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was released for the personal computer and Xbox 360. It took exactly a year for the PS3 port to come out, if I'm not mistaken. Like, to the day. I think it was. It came out literally March
20th, 2007.
Yeah. This massive open-world role-playing game, developed by Bethesda, co-published by 2K, was pretty much an instant fucking hit, as everybody knows. I'm sure many kids missed some high school for this one, but
yes, I actually dropped out of high school because I was
play Oblivion
because I was expelled, and I was expelled for missing too many days. Because I would literally show up and talk to my friends in the morning and then go home and play Oblivion.
You should have forged some doctor's notes.
Yeah,
you made off better anyway. But this game sold millions of copies. It later went on to win several Game of the Year awards. Many people to this day still call it the best of its genre. But while everybody else was out there having fun in the world of Cyrodiil. Cyrodiil. Man,
what a scrub.
I know, this is going to be bad. I have not played Oblivion since 2006.
Oh, that's fair.
I haven't played Oblivion since 2000 and when did Skyrim come out?
11.
2011.
That was probably the same for me too. Yeah.
I played Oblivion right before Skyrim
wasn't the
came
thing about Skyrim that it came out November 11, 2011?
Yeah, it was 11. Mm-hmm.
Just
I remember standing in the rain, sitting in the frozen rain for that midnight release.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But while kids were killing head crabs and putting baskets on people's heads, our boy racketeering, gun smuggling, now ex-California assemblyman Leland Yee was pissed off. Our GTA villain. Attacking and questioning the ESRB once again following the San Andreas hot coffee scandal less than a year prior.
God, this cunt. I hate this fucking guy.
I don't know. He's fun.
I don't know. Before the podcast, we were talking about perfect villains.
Yeah.
And how subtlety makes for bad villains. This guy was not subtle at all.
No, he's not subtle.
Great villain.
Great villain, yeah.
So one of the things I do want to get into here is I only quickly mentioned it in our hot coffee sode about how all this baloney really did like kind of branch beyond Rockstar and affected like a whole bunch of other games in the industry around it. This controversy, although smaller in scale, is pretty much a direct continuation of that. Like I can almost say with certainty that if it wasn't for hot coffee, this probably would not have happened at all.
Makes sense.
But and especially because of its connection with the modding scene too. Those poor fuckers were already pretty demonized by this point. But the only like the most of the mainstream like news and parents and stuff like that had a pretty bad representation of what they thought that scene was. And the last thing they wanted was more targets on their back. Now, this whole series was already, like, pretty... Well, I don't know about the whole series, but these games are already pretty famous for modding. Yeah. Morrowind had a pretty big, like, community around that already.
A lot of goofy shit.
A lot of crazy stuff, yeah. So this group might not even, they might not really even been aware of all that or really cared outside of just, like, being like, hey, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
like,
I guarantee you
they're going to keep making whatever they want. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
But the one thing that we do know... right now is that the only person more fucking upset than Leland Yee was the ESRB. And more specifically, their then president at the time, Patricia Vance, who I never really got into her before, but like she became a pretty public figure in this case only because, like, think about it, they already got screwed once a year ago. Like the ESRB, like was getting, so it's like they were pretty much ready to fight any game dev that dared double crossed or lied to them.
Well, you have to think about
she
it.
Was
I mean,
ready.
They got burnt on hot coffee. They think they
No
were
pun
lied
intended.
to. Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't even mean it. Yeah, and like
I always said
they
you
were
were
basically
funny.
lied to. This is not a government, organization, as we say, a bunch of times in that hot coffee episode.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
a private organization, so its dependability. It's it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's fucking.
Accountability.
It's accountability.
Yeah.
Its accountability is made by how they function.
Totally.
And if a bunch of hits keep coming to them, they're going to lose the accountability. And then what's the point of having the ESRB?
I have to wonder. Like, I think some of the blame might be on them, right? Because like, I know how the ESRB submission process works.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of that.
And we'll probably do an episode on the ESRB eventually, get more into that.
Yeah.
But like, you have to tell them what the questionable content in your game is. They don't have time to play through the whole thing, which I think we said in the hot coffee episode. Yeah. But like, after the hot coffee thing, I have to wonder if they modified their submission process at all.
Maybe. Or that or just the magnifying glass got bigger.
Like, just be like, hey, is there anything modders can get at that will change the rating of your game?
You think.
Yeah.
You'd think.
Yeah.
But this wasn't, I don't think this was long enough after, before.
Yeah, a lot of red
I'm sure.
tape.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they were still going through that shit. Yeah.
And I'm sure like Oblivion, like when is a game rated in its development process? Like it's usually months prior to release.
Months, but not that.
Not that long. But
it has to be mostly done.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. That's true.
It has to be in beta.
So more specifically, what were these issues that these guys were so upset about? Well, it only started about a couple weeks prior to. Or this is after release. I'm sorry. This is so like the funny thing is like this game comes out in March March 20th. Sorry, and only a couple weeks after release, I think it was actually on April 1st to make it even. Yeah,
good bit.
When a female modder known as Mayani, it's like almost spelled like that band. It's like I don't know what it's a reference to. Or if just
I love the idea that we're going to reference like people in a community as more as this show goes on. Like I love the idea that we have to use people's usernames.
Yes,
because I can't wait for it to be like,
good.
Yes, and this serious issue involving Gamergate, there was one community member, Big Blazin' 420 Bongs 69.
Him and his friend.
He said,
"Pizza fuck 420."
Well, it's not like the real names at this up to this point have been. We have Barton Waterduck and
classic.
Leland Yee.
Leland Yee. So she put a pretty straight to the point mod out titled Oblivion Topless Mod.
Real creative fella.
While interestingly stating in its release that it was actually being done in protest. She was quoted in those posts as saying, and I'm going to quote her verbatim here, "Please note, this is a realistic nudity mod, not a pornographic one. The file included removes the bra welded to the skin of females of all races, showing things as most people know as they are in the real world after removing upper body clothing." I don't know if English was her first language, but it's very redundant.
It's weirdly worded, yeah.
It's very strangely worded. Going on to say, it will not show every female in the game as topless. I do this because I hate government / society / whatever forcing companies to protect our innocent population from seeing those dirty, evil things 50% of them possess personally anyways.
Yeah.
Not because I am trying to turn it into a porn game.
Wait, what's like dope?
Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah, that's that.
It's kind of like a nice little, the whole thing we talked about in Hot Coffee. It's kind of a nice little like nod, like the fact that America's obsessed with violence but not sexuality. Like, it's so weird.
Well, that's these modders are always multiple steps of all of the people who have the power.
And Oblivion's like fictional, but like bras weren't a thing.
No.
Way back when.
No.
So it would make sense that if you stole someone's armor off their body, that they would just have their tits out.
Let's not to forget, like,
something that Age of Conan game.
In order to get somebody's armor off to see their tits to begin with, you literally have to kill them.
Yeah.
No accountability for the murder. No.
That's fine for teenagers.
Yeah.
No seeing boobs.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure which site that this was uploaded to first, as that there were a few different popular pages back then that hosted these kind of things. But as Austin said, this girl kind of rules. And whether or not people were really in support of her message or not, it did not take long for this to get passed around by people everywhere before hitting the news. And everybody was ready for a story like this now. But although most outlets within the gaming community mostly just shrugged their shoulders, that's the funny thing. It's like stating that like a lot of people within games, like sources like Game Informer, GameSpot, and stuff like that, and IGN were just they were pretty much quoted as saying that they thought it was fairly tame by modding standards, and that it wasn't anything new to them, even with one writer claiming that they found it about as, quote, erotic as a doctor's visit, which I thought it's just pretty good. But remember, this is in a post-hot coffee world now. Like, the ESRB was pretty scared of angry parents and politicians breathing down their backs by this time, and they did not want another incident again. And so soon, obviously, as well. Just like San Andreas, though, these files of the topless female character models were on the disc. Just like our boy Patrick W., I forgot his last name, Wildenborg. She did not create them, she just found them.
Yeah.
And they didn't have juicy ass names like Blowjobs with the Z or whatever Rockstar used in their stuff. But the only thing this time around, though,
in the file.
The one other thing is that according to some of the artists at Bethesda, they only had the assets built this way to help realistically render clothing on top of the character models.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that's why. Like, there's a reason for it. It's not like they just did it.
Yeah,
and especially because as a
doing
player, like, you switch out armor and stuff on your avatar all the time. Yeah. So it's just like, I'm sure they just wanted to have like a pretty big graphical step of like beyond Oblivion, where everything just looked. Morrowind, where everything was just like painted on.
Absolutely.
They did this because theoretically, if you're putting clothes on a character and you want to make something like low cut, I guess, on a female character, then you need to like. Well, first of all, everybody has nipples. Yeah. But if you're not allowed to show.
Whoa, speak for yourself.
If you're not allowed to show the nipples, but you want to make like a outfit that almost shows the nipples, which a lot of outfits in video games do, then you have to know where they are in order to not show them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have like something that's low cut that's like on the right side of the boob.
This sounds like
that's weird. Where's the fucking nipple?
This sounds like entrapment for 3D.
There is literally a reason for it. It's not like they were sitting there at the studio like, yeah.
This is not Hot Coffee where they're just like, hey, guys, check it. I made the blowjob. Like, no, they were just like, this is
check
like
out this polygon.
This has a reason for existing.
Yes. Of course, and here's the sad part. None of this was admitted until after they got caught. essentially. In case you thought that Bethesda were totally innocent here, their first press release addressing the mod was to claim that our girl Melanie here created the 3D mesh and texture, and that they weren't responsible for stuff inserted into the PC version of the game by third parties.
Of course, once again.
Sound familiar?
Once again, I guarantee you that like whoever's job it was to release this press release didn't talk to the people who made the game.
Of course not.
Because if it was like, if somebody interviewed somebody making the game, they'd probably be like, yeah, we put nipples on there because we needed to realistically render some outfits. But that's not good PR speak, so they're just like, it's the modders, they're the villains.
Yeah, it just sucks because it's like that's such a legitimate excuse. It wasn't like Rockstar being like, we have to push the envelope. It was just they're just like, hey, this helped our fucking character. Like,
no, of course. The first thing you need to do is blame your community that buys your games. So
and especially the people who love them so much that they actually like spend time on like trying to add free content for them.
Also, the thing that makes this one worse than Hot Coffee is that like the Rockstar one was like they put this stupid minigame in it, and like and the guy Patrick W or whatever was like, I'm gonna fucking show this because it's fucking hilarious. And then this chick was just like, yeah, they shouldn't have bras because like that's not how it would work back then. And like I think it's stupid that I can murder a person and then not see their nipples. And then instead of being like, you know what, that's a pretty good message. Yeah, they're in the game and we can pass them out, blah blah blah, whatever. We're sorry. They're just like, fucking this bitch did it. Like,
whoa, a woman is talking. Blame her.
So the funny thing is, our Hot Coffee here, guess how it played out for them?
Probably horribly.
And probably
poorly.
Yes, very poorly, because these claims were pretty much almost instantly disproven when someone managed to recreate the effect using an action replay cheat on the Xbox 360 version of the game.
Which has nothing to do with creating 3D assets or anything.
Just like, remember Gothy? Who was?
How can I forget a horrible username like that?
who did pretty much the same thing by finding the mini games in the PS2 version of Grand Theft Auto. So pretty much this was shot down before they could swarm news fans around this poor girl's house.
Also, it's funny because this was more work than the Hot Coffee thing too.
Yeah.
Just like to point that out. The Hot Coffee thing, they literally went and changed a 0 to a 1. And then it was enabled in the game.
Yeah.
This, you literally had to like... Well, you didn't have to edit models, but you had to like decouple one model from another.
Right. Yeah, which could probably potentially cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, she was able to do it pretty quickly, but I'm sure it was, like you're saying, like infinitely more. It's way more involved.
Neither of them are a ton of work, but the Hot Coffee thing was literally changing one variable.
Yeah, because as far as we know, like that guy didn't do anything, but just like made it playable. Regardless, the ESRB continued to catch wind of all this, and Bethesda, after finally coming to and saying that the nipples were theirs.
These are our nipples.
So we're sorry. Offered to the first thing they chose to do to try and put out this fire was to release an update that would patch over the problematic texture file with one that would be as about an anatomically incorrect as a Barbie doll. Yeah. So they would pretty much just be removing the nipples and nothing else.
Yeah, people hate nipples.
Yeah.
Love killing each other.
Always causing a fuss.
Hate nipples.
But the board felt that this was not enough and insisted that Bethesda resubmit their entire packet for ratings review instead.
Which has got to be an insane amount of work.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had to pay for it again.
I don't know. Yeah, it was another like
Probably.
10 grand or whatever.
Yeah, because the ESRB ain't cheap.
No.
This is like if you write up a report for your boss and he's like, you spelled this word wrong. Can you like fix it? Just like right click it and then Word will give you the right word. And he's like, I'm just gonna rewrite the whole thing. I think that'll be easier and better for everybody.
But this time around, they were requesting that they make absolutely sure that every single thing that could influence the rating gets fully disclosed this time.
If I was Bethesda in this, I would just like print out every like model and texture in the game and put it in a packet that like
like
literally
it's
couldn't
like
fit in an envelope.
Yeah.
And just like send it to them on like a truck and just have a guy unload a pallet of pages. Like, here you go, assholes.
Yeah. How do you like them nipples? It's just like a guy's like foot Xeroxed 1,000 times, like every character model.
Is this fetish enough for you?
During the investigation, it did not take them long to find the said files that could be unlocked, and quickly announced in a very unusual move, officially on May 3rd of 2006, the same year, that the game would officially be re-rated. Now, I mentioned previously that the original release was T for teen, which is ages 13 and up.
13-years-olds have nipples.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Hot button.
Bold stance. That the content descriptors in the back of the teen rated ones boxes that came out were language, sexual themes, use of alcohol, all the good stuff, violence, and notably blood and gore, which is kind of a rare for like a teen game, but like I guess the fantasy setting kind of covers up any any true realism there.
There's something different about smashing a man to death with a hammer on the side of the road.
We're eventually gonna do the whole free speech thing on an episode.
Yeah.
But this was my favorite bit from that whole trial with the Supreme Court, where they tried to argue that Gears of War wasn't a game that was that violent because you're not killing other humans except for the multiplayer. They said if the multiplayer wasn't in Gears of War, it could have been rated teen because the locusts weren't humans. And they used the example... they used the example that the locusts were too human, but if you had put Spock ears on them, then it would have been rated teen because they're not...
I think I remember that show.
Fuck?
Oh, what if they changed the blood color? Because that could have been...
That's what Halo did.
That is what Halo did.
Yeah.
They got an M rating anyway.
I know they
but,
did.
Well, multiplayer.
Yeah.
Because you shoot each other and there's red blood.
Because...
So
and we'll do a Halo episode too. But yes, they got rated M because of the red blood in the multiplayer.
It's funny because you think about... what's the Middle Earth? Shadow of Mordor is an M-rated game with decapitations and disembowelments.
Great decapitations.
Oh, totally.
By the
but
way.
remember,
Incredible.
the blood in that game is black.
Yeah,
and
it's
they're
all black.
And they're all like orcs, which are probably like the least humanized enemy in fiction.
Apparently, it's just the ears. Like, if the ears are different shaped, you're golden. Like, you can just like dismember whatever you want as long as its ears aren't rounded.
The funny thing is, now that you mention that joke, I seriously fucking remember like Photoshops being passed around on like 4chan of the locusts having Spock ears from Gears of War.
That's funny. That's great.
God damn.
I can't believe the Supreme Court, the sexual assaulting Supreme Court, is the one who gets to rule on whether there's nipples or not. It's unbelievable. That's hashtag topical.
Ball's always in their corner, isn't it? So do you want to know what the switches, the changes to the descriptors would be?
Yeah.
So everything was switched over, because they had to actually have new listings on the back once it became M. So the language listing was dropped, which I don't know. I guess just because like.
If it's M-rated, you don't have to worry
about the words hell and damn and stuff
like that.
Yeah.
Only if it's like beyond that, which
Stop right there, you nipple having scum. That doesn't really matter that much if you're on rated M.
But they did swap the violence listing out with the higher intense violence one.
Once again, smashing a man with a warhammer. Intensely violent.
Kind of strange considering that everything else in the game or on the box here stayed the same. No new listing of nudity would appear or anything, but we'll get more into the violence one later. But the mod was pretty much the thing that kind of caused the investigation, despite the fact that in the end they would argue that it was actually something else. But Bethesda here, they were not really too happy with that result. But unlike Rockstar, though, they did not choose to dispute it, nor were they looking to patch it, or even worse, like have to recall those teen-rated copies that were already out there.
Yeah.
But like, as this game was already shipping for a couple months, but nobody wanted another fight with the ESRB at this point. Their actual official response from Bethesda was, "We will not contest the ESRB's decision to re-rate the game as mature, nor will we change the game's content to keep the teen rating. We believe that this critically acclaimed game is not typical of other mature-rated titles and does not present the central themes of violence that are common in those products."
Fucking throwing shade.
Right?
Yeah, you can re-rate us all we want. We want Game of the Year awards, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's I think is funny because like what's especially great here is that not only in this quote do they praise themselves, which fine, well deserved, but but they don't even mention the nude mod.
I wonder if they were conscious enough
That's how it all started to begin with.
to have the discussion of the fact that if the ESRB took another hit and they possibly lost their credibility, if something like rating video games would move towards a more government-centered rating system.
Probably.
I wonder if they were constant enough to be worried that the government might take over, and then ratings would inherently probably be more strict, you know?
Another thing is, like, Bethesda didn't really have much to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to sell this game to, I guess, teenagers now.
Yeah, they were about to drop wet
But,
soon.
like
they had money rolling in.
I liked Wet.
But like the thing is, like, video games make most of their sales in the first couple months. Bethesda, at the time, the 360 version of Oblivion did really well, but all sales after the first couple months are usually like PC sales, where the rating doesn't matter at all. Like, people can buy whatever they want from Steam, however old they are. You just gotta lie. So, like, you know, they're
That's
just
like the Nintendo DS thing. You can lie about what state you're from because it affects the way that the games are taxed digitally. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm from Delaware, Nintendo.
We have a huge fan base in Delaware. So strange.
There isn't a single person living in New York that owns a 3DS, but they're all...
But no, they like the conversation was probably like, just let it happen. Like, it's not worth fighting because we don't have to recall anything. And we already sold most of the copies we're going to sell, which ends up not being true. Because Oblivion did really well over the
word
long
of mouth
term.
kind of really
but like, also, mature when you're dealing with a game where you burn people alive and cut them in half with swords, not in half, but you cut them with swords and shit like that and smash their faces with warhammers. Nipples don't really matter. Like, if a teenager wants to cut people in half, he's still got to ask his parents, or they don't care, and then it doesn't matter.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, like, a lot of other folks from within the industry were actually still pretty upset by this.
Yeah.
Like, notably, Doom creator and kind of asshole John Romero,
creator of Daikatana,
creator of Daikatana, an N64 game that was exclusively carried by Blockbuster. It was also on PC, but
are we gonna do a Daikatana episode in the future?
I do want to do a Daikatana episode, only because that was a game that I was actually like monitoring. I was like, this is gonna. Like, I was probably going around to other kids at school talking about how that game was gonna be a big deal, like a fucking idiot. But he was fairly public about his view that the modding scene was only going to make it harder for developers and their relationship with the ESRB. Despite the fact that like that community was a major part of why a lot of his projects were so successful for so many years. Like games like Doom and Quake like stayed in the limelight for so long because there were so many people extending the longevity of those through modding. But
well, he had a first-hand experience that he thought.
I mean, he wanted to protect developers, which I understand, but still, like, the only thing about this is that, like, a lot of this was still under assumption. Like, no matter how obvious the ESRB's investigation was for, they never actually officially put out a statement detailing why the rating was changed officially. Until, like, you know, like, as of, like, just that it was effectively changed of that date. They didn't put out, like, any detail saying that they... about the mod. Maybe they didn't want to draw attention to it. I don't know.
You want a funny anecdote? I just realized I have a teen-rated copy of Oblivion at home.
Me too.
I still have the version. I would not have been able to buy that game if it was rated M because I was 16.
Me neither. Yeah, I was 16.
Yeah, exactly.
And what that actually we were just the right age because they would have just made it 1 year.
See, I played that all on PC, so I had the advantage. That was probably the last age of me playing on the computer.
Oblivion and Halo 3 were the two reasons I bought a 360.
Yeah.
Because I used to subscribe to Xbox Magazine.
OXM.
Magazines?
Yeah. And they
had demos in there. They would ship discs.
And they shipped one for the original Xbox that had a video of what Oblivion was going to look like. And I was just like watching. I was like, oh, fuck. Everything's about to change.
I bought the 360 for Saints Row and Dead Rising because GTA 4 was taking too long, and the very first time I saw a screenshot of Dead Rising where there was like 1,000 characters on the screen at once, I was just like, how is that possible? Like, but so the funny thing is, like, this change in the rating wouldn't actually get fully explained by them until like over a year. Jeez. Like the retailers who didn't pull the game off the shelf, because I think like Circuit City was just like, you got to figure this out before we But it worked out well for them. But those that didn't do that, it was the same thing as San Andreas here. Like they got sent over. I want to know who made these stickers, but they got sent they got sent M stickers to put over the teen boxes, and then like we mentioned, they had to start IDing because teen-rated games don't get ID'd at all, like regardless of how old you are. But like new discs getting printed and had to be adjusted, and then. Like there was a Game of the Year edition, that PlayStation 3 version I mentioned earlier. All those issues like eventually came out with the new ratings intact, of the M. But all the stuff that was already out there, they had to do something about, I suppose. But this just seemed to be the way it was, at least until an article came out, which is by the Escapist magazine. Cutely titled "The Breast That Broke the Game," and I wish I know I wish I had this author listed in here, but it was published saying how crazy the whole thing was, and basically like with the release of that mod, and more specifically how quiet and unnoticed it went at the time.
The Escapist article was called "Boobies Did Not Break the Game. The ESRB Cleans the Air on Oblivion."
Then that
written by Michael Zenke, and there's another article from Kotaku called "The Breast That Broke the Game," written by Maggie Green.
Oh, okay, that's what we got.
Clears it up.
A lot of tit talk here. So it was funny because like when the mod started to blow up, that announcement came out that the game was getting re-rated, and it mostly just sort of happened. But like a lot of this blame was mostly due to like news cycles being more centered around E3 at the time, and a lot of other big releases. Yeah. Like a lot of these like spring summer releases. I think Kingdom Hearts 2 and like New Super Mario Brothers came out like around the DS game. There's a couple of other games. I think like this was all around like that exact time.
Nice.
And not only that, but like this was 2006. Like later on that year was the Wii and the PlayStation 3. So like. The like news cycles were going.
The Wii, how'd that do? Do we know how that did in the long run?
For me, or for America, they went on to say in this article that rating scheme was actually going to set a pretty bad precedent, and that factors like bad press, public outcry, and political interest should not be able to change game. Like ratings essentially, and it mostly just came off as the ESRB caving into something that they shouldn't have.
I'm assuming they wanted the ESRB to just shut them down. Like
I guess they just wanted them to just be like, hey, this game's already out. It's the modding scene. It's whatever. It's not a big deal. We got enough other stuff going on.
Okay, and that makes sense. That would have been a more logical fucking.
It would have been a much more logical one. Right. But so when hearing about this finally led to them laying it all out for us, basically, via an interview with the writer of that editorial only like days after it was released. Yeah. The aforementioned ESRB president, Patricia Vance, explained that their policy on locked out content was strictly set after the issue with San Andreas, as you guys were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
And she was also quoted as saying, it was clear that because the active gamer community, the modders, that companies could not risk leaving content on discs that could undermine the accuracy of the rating. Going on to say that it was absolutely clear to publishers that they could not leave unfinished or other pertinent content on the disc, and that anything unplayable in the game code must also be disclosed.
I'm not trying to take the side of the ESRB, but that's honestly kind of a pretty legit statement.
Yeah.
But I think the problem comes when there's a disconnect between what the ESRB wants and how the creation of games is functionally done. Like, I'm sure it would take a lot more work, or could they just not take off the fact that existed in the games? Like, we discuss how it's about the character models. Like, is there a way to not remove it? Then there's not a way to remove it. Like,
I mean, there goes all those secrets on old games that we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. Remember that? I mean, no more hidden episodes of South Park on Tiger Woods PGA Tour 99.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this point, I guess this is sort of... Oblivion was also like almost a very between generations like game. Oblivion was one of the first games that was like, oh, this is a new era of games. Just the scope and size and detail of that game and everything was just like, hey, games are getting more and more complicated, and that means the regulations and rules around them will also.
I found a quote from Patricia Vance.
Okay,
I'm on that article. Boobies did not break the game. It's actually an interview with her.
Is this where she mentions the body Because I'm gonna
No.
Okay.
So I mentioned this in the last one. They have a descriptor for the ESRB called game experiences may change during online play. You see that anytime.
Yes.
It's just a thing now because every game has an online feature of some kind.
Yeah.
But back then it was specifically like, hey, if your kid gets called a bad word while he's playing Xbox Live, we're not going to rate that because we can't.
Yeah.
It's impossible. So she says, the guy writing this article says, to clarify, user-created content in a game like Little Big Planet or Sony's Home that's outside the purview of the ESRB. She says, yes, we have an online rating notice that covers content that is user-generated that falls outside the boundaries of ESRB ratings. Any game that enables players to download content from other people or communicate with other people while they're playing carries the notice game experience may change during online play.
Yes.
The reality is the ESRB can't rate content that is created by other people after the game comes out. We never have we never tried, never will.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, and that should have been the stance from the very beginning. It probably would have avoided the entire re-rating to begin with, but...
Yeah. So, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, at this point, like in the industry, it became sort of official that whatever modders want to make, it's on them. The ESRB doesn't care. But whatever modders find, that's on the game companies. Then the ESRB does care. A lot, as we found out. Create all the polygon nipples you want if you're a fan, but, sorry, game devs, you got to do that on your own time. It doesn't matter if they look like an action figure, or that if you're just trying to get the textures of your in-game clothes to appropriately fit over a correct human being character body, you got to leave your breasts at home. Anyway, here's where the violence comes in, and this is kind of an interesting sort of
As an American,
thing.
Love me some violence.
You're ready.
Yeah.
You're always ready. Vance went on to clarify that there were some other content that they found proved to be questionable as well, that they actually kind of that they discovered in this sort of digging through the game here.
Yeah.
She was quoted as saying that they discovered far more blood and gore than had been previously disclosed, particularly in the Dark Brotherhood quest line.
No shit.
While specifically referencing this upside-down hanging corpse found in one of the dungeons. The footage that they apparently saw before only showed the body far away in the dark, but then when you brought a torch up to see it, it would be bright enough to see all the mutilated details, like the flesh and bones and stuff like that. As well, there was a couple other bloody rooms that they said were not in the packet submission. Or at least with the right amount of light to see everything anyway.
Yeah.
But Bethesda, said, hey, we showed you all the blood and guts and occasional torture in that 60-page report. You're the ones that gave it a T initially. So I don't know. Maybe back then it mattered that stuff a little more, but now all the top selling games really have nothing to do with those ratings, in my opinion.
I don't know how you can describe the Dark Brotherhood to somebody and get a teen rating.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
I can't describe the Dark Brotherhood in a short fashion that won't sound fucked up.
Even if you just give the elevator pitch, it's a clan of assassins that, are literally being paid to kill somebody in the name of a god who's all about death.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who say that was one of their favorite parts
it's the
of
best.
It is.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
But it's you only get invited to this secret society if you murder someone in cold blood and then go to bed, and then they leave a note on your body while you're sleeping.
Exactly.
That just says "we know" with a handprint on it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're comfortable with murdering somebody in cold blood and then, fuck it, I'm retired for the night.
Yeah.
That's when you get your your invitation.
The last thing I will say here about this, by the way, is that like San Andreas, maybe except for Australia here, the responses from outside the country practically non-existent.
Oh, of course.
Always.
don't
The
give a shit
UK,
about
Europe,
nipples.
Japan, they all kept their original ratings while we all freaked out about boobs.
Yeah.
That's because Oblivion took place in Europe. Fun fact. That's not true.
Yeah.
But it's
you
based
can
on. That's how I've never,
European folklore.
I've only been to Europe once, and I
looks
didn't
just like
explore a lot. But I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what it's like.
High fantasy is definitely based off of European.
Yeah, it's 3 years ago. That's what it looks
I
like.
also have to note that I found it pretty funny that in Skyrim, Oblivion's sequel, that the game pretty much opens with a straight up decapitation in your face.
Yeah.
Just to just
They're
to
if we're getting an M rating, we're
yeah,
going for it.
Exactly. Just nobody can feel tricked this time around.
Yeah.
They're just Yeah.
Yeah, until you hear a choo-choo and a giant Thompson Tank engine lands on the building.
With Hulk Hogan's face on it. You're like, whoa, this should be AO.
Your horse just turns into the initial D car.
So yeah, what did we learn? What do you guys?
We learned the same thing we learn always,
Which
which is that America is some reason obsessed with violence but hates sexuality.
Yeah.
Do I blame God? Of course I blame God. What else is the reason for that? God loves violence.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he hates people fucking. What else do you? I mean, that's practically a direct quote from the Bible.
Yeah. And then God said, yo, kill each other all you want, but no fucking.
I mean, I guess game devs here, like from here on out, had to they had to be way more careful about what unused assets were left in games,
Which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like.
Game making is
That
awfully hard.
That is something they should not have to
worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, the more positive spin here is that I don't think any publisher or developer can officially be held responsible for what modders like want to create and share in their games, at least in the ESRB's terms anyway. Like parents and politicians will stay pissed forever, but either way, like this is good though. Like not them being pissed, but it's good that like companies shouldn't be punished for what fans want to do with their games post-release, and vice versa, obviously. But like, unless it's stealing, but you know what I mean.
You wouldn't steal somebody's bra in Oblivion.
Like Austin was saying about that quote from Patricia Vance is that like it's not the ESRB could never regulate all that stuff, and it was never their mission ever. Like they didn't even want to control what fans do, like. I mean, modding, you could probably trace modding back all the way to the shooters of the early 90s, around the time when the ESRB came into existence. So I'm sure it's something they've always sort of been conscious of in some way.
Oh, of course.
But, like, that game experience may change during online play warning that became popularized from this and Hot Coffee was just their way of, like, saying, hey, we don't want to deal with this bullshit controversy ever again.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they don't... Like, when Austin mentioned Little Big Planet earlier in that quote, like, imagine if Sony was held accountable for what people made in that. What if Valve was held accountable for what people made in Garry's Mod or Nintendo with Mario Maker? Or Bethesda later on when people would mod their games.
I played some Little Big Planet levels that were fucked the fuck up.
Yeah.
How many were shaped like dongs?
No, I played one that was it was a Dead Space level. And there were, like, decapitated sack boys everywhere. And I was like, this is fucking dope. What the fuck?
My favorite Little Big Planet level I ever made was a poop level. I literally made a level where you start off by descending into a toilet, and all the monsters are, like, made of shit. And there's like shit falling everywhere. Yeah, it was. I'm pretty proud of that one, actually.
Yeah.
I love Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
Only game to feature
also
the band Battles.
Yeah.
I also played a ton of Mario Maker levels with dongs in them.
Yeah.
Were they made out of coins or blocks?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I think I played...
It depends on the maker,
I think I played. There was one of the most popular levels on Smash Brothers Brawl back when you could make your own levels, and that was like a big giant vagina level. I'm pretty sure.
People are so creative.
Classic. You love them.
Yeah.
Love them all. Yeah, you don't expect us to be responsible for those people.
Those people are always going to be out there. But games. Imagine though, games could have been like a really different thing for the worse if this went down in a different, like in the opposite way.
Yeah.
Like imagine like we're actually kind of lucky, like sort of technically after all this, because like imagine like if video games were like policed in that way where it's like you could not.
Especially, let's picture the ESRB, that alternate history where the ESRB collapses in the fucking late Bush era.
Oh, that's
who
the
fucking
real horror.
knows what could have happened? Like, there obviously would have to been some sort of oversight in game ratings. Either A, games would have become some wild underground thing, would have destroyed the fact that the industry could have gained, any sort of traction, like in the mainstream, or there would have been a government organization set to rate games, and that would have been devastating.
Yeah.
We would have never seen another Grand Theft Auto again after that.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, God. No, the horror.
Yeah.
You know who is lucky though in all this? Us with our teen-rated copies of Oblivion.
Yeah, they gotta be worth some sick cash.
Yeah,
dude.
I actually have no idea if they're worth more. I assume that they are though. Like I would not be
played
surprised.
so much of that game from the time I was 16 to the time I was 17.
Oh, dude, endless amounts.
But that is our episode. Thank you guys all again for listening. We were trying to make this like a shorter one.
Oof, you ever play Roblox?
While a couple of our other larger
Hold on, I gotta get this in. Are there any Fortnite mods?
Fuck! We made it so far. But we got some big ones in the pipeline. So
yeah. The Mario pipeline.
Come
We're all
back.
about the games.
I see what you did there. But I don't know if you want to plug some Twitters, but I was gonna say come back again next week for another exciting.
Fucking A. Follow us on Hot Button Cast. We got a lot of good shit over there. If you want to follow us personally, I'm at Chris I something.
I'm at Austin Blakesley.
I'm Restart Randy.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
Did you know Fortnite is rated teen?
Yes.
Fun fact.
PUBG is as well.
PUBG is
that
rated
game should
teen?
be rated bad. 'Cause it's bad.
I wonder if the character models in PUBG have nipples.